let's talk about the government ban generally first, because we think that there may be an announcement this week or next week. I don't know what that announcement might be. I'm not party to those discussions. But how do you feel about the possibility that as soon as the summer holidays, conversion therapy could be banned in the United Kingdom?
Well, I think if they're banning corrective rape and electroshock therapy and frontal lobotomies and chemical castrations, that might be a good idea. But if they're wanting to ban the freedom of speech, where people simply sit down and explore their unresolved sexual fluidity issues, I think that would be a very bad thing for people who want to go in a different direction and are not able to get professional help.
I know we've discussed this before and we've had this debate before, so we don't need to go into huge amounts of detail, but you won't be surprised that the devil's advocate in me will put to you that there has been a lot of research, medical research, scientific research, and also non-scientific research from things like the Ozanne Foundation that suggests that conversion therapy is deeply damaging for people. So why would you want to continue with a practice that has been shown to be damaging?
Well, where is this research, Paul? Can you cite the references that you have in your mind that show categorically that these interventions are always harmful? Because we've asked for it. We're not talking about statements that come from executives of mental health bodies. We're talking about the hard science. Where is the research that says it's harmful? That would be my one response. My other response would be, where is the research that has looked at the population that doesn't want to be gay or is coming out of a transgendered period in their lives? Where is the research that explores what is happening to that population? I don't believe that's been done either. And of course, the APA has said there is no evidence one way or the other in terms of effectiveness. That hasn't changed.
I suppose the research that I've noticed coming forward is from places like the Ozanne Foundation, where they did find that a huge proportion, a majority of people who've been through conversion therapy ended up having suicidal thoughts, which would suggest that perhaps what you do isn't necessarily that helpful for people.
Well, I think it's important to look at the work that has been done critiquing that model. Because once again, as with the government research, number one, the researchers disallowed anybody who was formally LGBT, so we cannot assess who has benefited from the study, number one. And number two, in both cases, the LGBT community was up to 20 times overrepresented in terms of the general population. This is poor research.
What evidence do you have that you can change someone's sexuality and that these people go on to lead happier lives?
I have anecdotal evidence, and it's the same as any evidence, evidence from gay affirming therapies that claim to be successful. It's all anecdotal, because there is no university in the land who is ever going to approve research that compares and contrasts groups and gives the treatment to one group and withholds it from another. The research hasn't been done. And that's the whole point. If we're going to be led by scientific study, then we have to do the science. And we can do it from different points of view, from my ideological point of view, or from the ideological point of those who would disagree with me. But in the end, we have to come together and we have to look at scientific method and unpack it. And that is what is being prevented.
Germany's banned conversion therapy, Malta's banned conversion therapy, the UN wants it banned too. You find yourself on the wrong side of history here, don't you, Mike?
I don't believe we are on the wrong side of history. I think this will unravel because it's untenable. You cannot ban people's human right to be able to plan the trajectory that they want to go in. They're not interested in anything other than living lives that are satisfying to them. That's what they want. And I think that they need to be given the support and the respect that tells them that we believe in them, that we believe in autonomy, and we believe in the fact that they are adult enough to decide what they want to do in life.
If it's purely about freedom, would you support the freedom of a therapist to turn a straight person gay?
Well, I've never met such a person. There's never been a person who has ever approached me, and frankly, I've never heard of such a person approaching any other therapist. People don't want to become gay that I've experienced, that I have met, but they do want to go in the other direction. And they're not critical of folk who are gay and happy in that way. They simply want to go in a direction that is satisfying to them.
I just want to pick you up on that though, because the reason I ask you that question is a lot of people feel as if there is an implied criticism actually in what you do, and the feelings that people come to you with because they feel as though being gay is less good than being straight because of all of the factors that perhaps society's put on the table, whether those are religious texts or whether those are societal pressures about having children. They're coming to you with a lot of baggage about what being gay means. And isn't that the real reason why people try to turn themselves straight? Because of bigotry in society. And we should be embracing those people, some would argue, and helping them to accept their sexuality rather than saying, yeah, you should want to be straight because it is better.
People should be free, and we should give them the right and freedom to go in the direction that they want to. Absolutely, I agree with that. But to assume that people who come in this direction are ignorant and insensitive to the fact that, so-called systemic internalized homophobia is a fact is just not the truth. They're very aware that they can be subject to all sorts of pressures in life. The first job I have is to find out why they've come. And if they've come because of a spouse or because of siblings or because of a church or because of any other kind of pressure, then that person is not somebody who I would be able to work with ethically, because they're here under sufferance. They have to know what they want in life and what their goals are. And the process is always going to be a challenge. There's no guarantee, Paul, that people who come here will end up so-called straight. And I think this is part of the problem. It's not a gay to straight thing. What we do is what we call safety. Sexual attraction, fluidity, exploration in therapy. We agree sexuality is fluid, that people go in different directions, and there may come a point where they're not satisfied with the trajectory that they're going in and they want to talk it through. And that's what we do. So there's no, directive, guaranteed outcome that if you do this and that, you will end up here. There are different outcomes.
Fundamentally, though, you do embrace their theory that it's better to be straight. You do grab hold of that and say, yeah, come on a journey with me because I totally get why you'd want to be straight. It's preferable to being gay. You reinforce that messaging.
In the same way as a gay-affirming therapist has an ideological point of view and will say to people, there's nothing wrong with what I am offering, I will do the same thing. I will say to people, you have a choice. And if at any point you feel that what I am sharing with you or the work that we're doing conflicts with what you want, then you must know that you are absolutely free to go in another direction. And I would wholeheartedly respect them in doing that. And the problem is, in the UK, there is no balance between these two points of view. They're not allowed to come together. This is why banning just simply won't work. Regulate, I really understand that. I appreciate that. We should all be against poor practice. We should all make sure that things are done in an ethical way. But when one group says to the other group, your ethical position is not right, and it's because of all these organizations that agree with us, I'm afraid that isn't true. That's not what democracy is, and that's not what scientific debate is. There will always be minorities in scientific debate, and there has to be this, this coming together of minds and making sure that the scientific method rules the day and not the ideology.
If the government does come forward with a ban on conversion therapy, would you hope to find a way around it and continue practicing?
Well, what are they going to do? Are they going to ban conversations between people? Are they going to ban two people coming together and talking about, for example, sexual fluidity? Are they going to object to people who have a certain kind of life experience, sharing with other people? I mean, we just don't know, Paul. We have to wait, in my opinion, and see what the government is saying and go from there.
But it is very much your hope to continue practicing. Even if there's a ban, you might find a loophole, you might find a way around it.
I have to see what the lay of the land is, but one thing I do know, this need among maybe a small portion of the population is not simply going to go away because the government requires it to go away. It's not going to go. You know, regulate it, invite people in who you disagree with, tell us where we are wrong, but don't simply say, we have the answers and we know better than you, because I'm afraid that just doesn't work. We have to have that argument, and I think that's been the problem. Ever since the Memorandum of Understanding was introduced, it was as though one point of view was privileged, and they became, you know, judge, jury, and executioner, and nobody else was allowed into the fold to have a debate. That's not democracy, and it's not science.
Right. I just want to show you some comments that this man made about conversion therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is somebody who says that he came to see you about 10 years ago.
I guess there was a huge amount of emotion in the conversation from my perspective. It's the first time I probably unburdened a lot of what I carried for all those years.
And so did you end up going to those groups?
Yeah, unfortunately, it caused me to doubt myself, to question myself, and to be anxious about lots of things in my life and decisions that I was making in life. And it really, I mean, I think therapy is meant to build you up to become someone who is whole and complete and feels that they can step out into the world and live the fullest life possible. But actually, I think it breaks you down and rebuilds you in a way that just doesn't work, and it probably doesn't fit. And I think that's why so many, including myself and so many others who have been involved in this form of therapy, end up coming out of it actually feeling worse probably than they went in, because of the stuff that they go through. I definitely fed into an anxiety and depression around that stage of my life as well. You know, I look back and I think, well, what is the role of a therapist, or what's the role of a counsellor? And yes, there's men have gone with this sense of I'm gay and I don't want to be anymore. But actually, when I think about my experience, and I'm sure it's the same for many others, there was never time really spent on even exploring that, well, why is it you don't want to be that way? What is it about your context that makes you scared to be honest about who you are? There were definitely times where I felt like I didn't really want to go on. There were times where I felt there was no real hope, and it became all-consuming. I was lucky enough in those moments to be able to reach out to some people that were close to me and able to support me in that. But I'm in no doubt whatsoever that those experiences have come as a direct result of my experience of my sexuality in the context of Northern Ireland, of the church, and of conversion therapy. The promise we were sold, i.e. potentially becoming straight, and in being straight you would find contentment, that wasn't become a reality, and I was actually just, the more I questioned myself and doubted myself, the more anxious and depressed I probably felt.
So, I mean, generally speaking, Joe, are you okay?
Yep.
What do you make of the accusations there?
Well, I think if he was promised to become straight, I certainly wouldn't support that, and don't believe that I've ever promised any outcome to any individual. I think, you know, the problem with this gay-straight language is appalling. What we deal with is individuals who come and they have issues that they want to talk through. I don't remember this individual. I don't know who he is. But it seems to me that you will always get people who will move in either direction. I can introduce you to somebody at the moment that I'm dealing with who went in a gay affirming direction in terms of therapy. But it wasn't right for them. They left it and they've come in a different direction, or they did. It's been a while and they've been on the journey. So I don't think that this should be a problem. People should have the freedom to try things. And if it doesn't work for them, if they feel uncomfortable, or the particular approaches that are being used they feel are not right, I think that's exactly what we should encourage, that they have the freedom to go in a different direction.
This man says that you put him on a path that left him feeling suicidal. It's got to stop, hasn't it, Mike?
Well, that's what he says. I don't have the opportunity to talk to him. The thing is, he was, I think he was sent to somebody who is registered as a qualified psychiatrist, somebody who, is a part of the General Medical Council. I would have thought people would be happy that referrals are being made in that direction.
But you referred him to get conversion therapy that left him deeply, deeply damaged.
Well, I think it's a shame that what is put upon us is this term invented by Douglas Haldeman in 2003 or 4, an activist within the APA. These are not terms we use. Conversion therapy conveys some kind of a flip of a switch, that it's all about gay to straight. That is not the work that we do. If the government bans that, well, they are not banning the work that we do, plain and simple. He was given choices and he went in a direction. And fine, he says they were harmful. Did he lodge a complaint? Did he go back to the psychiatrist? Did he come in my direction? I don't believe he did.
So no remorse for the way that he's been left feeling?
Of course there's remorse. Of course there's remorse.
But you're going to carry on doing it anyway?
You're saying that everybody who comes in our direction ends up in the same way?
Enough of them do, Mike, that it's been classified as a harmful practice.
By some people, by gay activists. You're a gay activist yourself, Paul.
I'm a journalist, Mike. I'm here as a
journalist. But you're
journalist.
also a gay activist. You're also a leader in a gay charity. So you also have a specific point of view. And that's fair enough. You're welcome. I respect you. But we all have an ideological basis that we have to work through. What we should be doing is having checks and balances. But we're not allowed that. What we have to have is this viewpoint discrimination, and then this rather simplistic idea that we all know exactly what's happening when the research is not being done in a balanced way. We can't get the funding to do the research. It's only gay affirming points of view who will be supported, who will be given the money, who will be allowed to publish, who are allowed to hire staff. It's not right. And the government needs to redress the imbalance and look at regulation, not banning.
I suppose the argument is that on the gay affirming side, as you would call it, the reason why progress has led in that direction is because the message that they're sending out, the gay activists as you might call them, is one of acceptance, to say to people, don't fret about it, don't worry about it, certainly don't feel suicidal about it, you are who you are, and just make the best of yourself. Whereas why people feel offended by what you do is because it appears to be the opposite. It appears to say, yeah, you should feel bad about being gay, and we will help you get to a straight place, which is a preferable place. That's the perception of what you do. And I have yet to hear an argument from you that proves otherwise.
People come here and they come as individuals. They don't come as labels. They come as people who have got goals and they have desires. we talk through it. We look at what is realistic, what isn't realistic, how old they are, where they've come from, what their specific histories are. We talk about the kind of journey that might be in front of them. We introduce them to as many people as possible, as many stories as possible, that they can get a view and make an informed consent about whether or not they want to work with us. I don't think that that's any different to what anybody else is doing. If there are checks and balances, if there is a way of seeing that people are different, nobody should be required to go in the direction that I'm going in. If the government is banning, therapeutic choice that is no choice at all, it's forced on people, of course that should be something that needs to be looked at. They should be banning viewpoints that simply say gay affirming is the only way.